Hello, everybody, and welcome to another patch preview. My name is Ólafur Hrafn, and with me this time around, it is Darkness. We're going to be reviewing all the balance changes coming up on the patch on the 10th of February. So, without further ado, let's just get right into it, shall we?
We shall. Let's do it.
Well, the first one is going to be Italy. So we have the 39th Bologna Regiment. This one is getting a little bit of a buff.
A little bit of a buff. This is an incredible, strong buff, to be honest. But previously, this was cost one more to deploy for each unit you lost, meaning this infantry was able to cost 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 credits. Sometimes you weren't even able to play this anymore. But now it's either 3 credits or 4 credits for an infantry unit with guard and 7 HP for 3 credits. This thing is better than C4's Highlander. It's incredibly powerful, and I believe this is another strong buff towards Italy after the let's change with the last card was Lion for a Day.
Yeah.
I think we can expect slightly more Italy decks.
I've been seeing more Italy decks. I've been facing more Alpine and I've been noticing Italy more, and this is definitely going to strengthen their position. Now let's jump over to the Japanese here. This is an elite card that doesn't get a lot of use, didn't, but I think with the current buff here, we might see it quite a bit. So for people that maybe unpacked this a while ago, have had it sitting in their collection for a while, this is going to be an excellent time to bust out the home defense. Now dropping down to 8 credits. I think it's pretty crazy that you can get both that tank and the bomber for 4 credits as a last-ditch effort. So what do you think of this change?
This is a quite big change from 10 credits to 8 credits and costs 4 instead of 5 if your HQ is at 10 or less. I don't think this card is overpowered. It's mediocre. Previously, it was very bad. To be honest, it was very bad. But now for one card, getting a tank and a bomber, it's quite good. I don't think this is good enough to fit in the high rank plays or even tournament, but for the bunch of people like in the middle of the player pool, this card is quite decent now, definitely.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the play rate of this following these changes. The next one is definitely a popular card that is being changed here, and that's the Takazaki Regiment. The attack there being dropped down to 2. What does this change mean for Takazaki?
That means Takazaki is not longer an incredible power card anymore. You could play this card in nearly every single Japanese deck because it was incredible value. Now, with losing 1 attack, still having 2 operation costs, it's very slow and it's not pressuring enough to fit in these aggressive or maybe even mid-range Japanese decks anymore. This is now more like a tech card, especially with the destruction effect, of course. It's a discard card, and now you're going to play this in some Japanese control decks who are not that strong currently, and maybe and definitely in discard decks with Germany. But currently, German-Britain discard is much more stronger than the Japan discard effect. So this will weaken Takazaki Regiment a lot. But that's fine for me, who likes to play against resistance, against discard in every single deck where Japan ally is involved.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. it became so much of kind of an incidental thing that could be a game changer, right? Like you could just pack a Takazaki into any deck, and if it hits the right card in the discard, it could just win you the game. So,
Yeah.
now one of the
Just because of Takazaki Regiment, there were a lot of M4A1s in the last World Championship.
yeah
Because Soviet control with Japan was that strong, and this was definitely including KARD.
mhm.
So there were a lot of decks teched against Takazaki.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. Well, another card here from the Japanese. This is the Key 83, one of the cards from Breakthrough that really established itself as one of the powerhouses to come out of that set. But now the ambush has been removed, and I think this is a welcome change.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm definitely not surprised. Like 4 credits, 6/5 fighter is incredibly strong. And compared to other regular fighter, it was just way too good to
Yeah.
have ambush. And you noticed a lot of decks struggled against a turn 4 Key 83 because there was just no way to remove that unit because of this incredible ambush effect.
Yeah, you would normally not have the board develop to a point where, especially if you were, the second player to go and you got this turn 4 Key 83, you maybe had like two attack units on board or something, and you might be able to kind of scratch up to 5 damage next turn to get rid of it, but not with the ambush effect. So I think
No.
this definitely kind of hits a better balance point for the Key 83.
Yeah,
All right.
definitely.
Let's jump on over to the next one. It is the USA and its overwhelming force. So it's getting a slight change. Now it resets attack as well, allowing you to do a little bit. This means that like it kind of skips a turn.
Well, I think this is the most interesting change in the whole developer block. Not because this card is losing the ability to remove Fury, but because this is resetting the attack. It's similar to Silence in other CCGs. And recently, you saw a lot of these buff decks, like with counter-offensive, with close air support, maybe the Alliance or Unity Strength, stuff like that, who's able to buff a unit to +5/+5, +10/+10. With this card, it's now able to resettle this attack, makes this annoying British airplane one attack again, making this token one attack again. This is actually quite strong, and this is good for US. Well, this card is still not amazing because you're not trading 1-for-1, but with US, usually you're having this ramp scene. You want to build up the credit advantage as fast as possible, and with this tempo card for 0 credits, you're able to reduce an 8/8 token in the front line to 1 attack, meaning you're surviving a little longer to be able to play your big stuff, your Avengers, your B-17. This will help US. I don't know if this will be meta, like in the top 10 being played, top 100, but it's definitely an average, maybe slightly above average card now.
You know what I think is going to see some play? I think the Marauder is going to see some play.
Yeah, definitely.
I think with this change, and I think with bolster the ranks as well, I think the Marauder just became a formidable beast on the battlefield.
This reminds me on the old P40 with 4 attack, very hard to kill, very annoying effect. And this bomber is maybe very powerful right now. This is I'm expecting this to be seen in even tournaments and top 10 ladder play, because turn 4 drop with heavy armor 1 and 4 HP is very hard to kill unless your opponent already deployed an entire board with a lot of fast and aggressive stuff. But yeah, this +1 HP is making this into a beast. Sure, if the opponent is having balls to the ranks, that deployment, this card effect is not that useful. But after the nerf of Bolster the Ranks, you're not going to see Bolster in every single US deck anymore.
You know,
Um,
what I think is going to be interesting with this one is you know how it plays into all these fast aggressive decks. Now that you can maybe slow them down with the operation cost, and this kind of plays into allowing the US to have time to ramp up. And I think the Marauder now does a better job of that.
it really does a better job. It's still hard to tell this right now because you need to have like Evoking Giants and War Machine to be able to deploy this faster and handle the early game stuff. If you're just dropping this turn 4 against J aggro, you're either dead or this is getting killed with no trade.
Hmm.
But it's not bad anymore. Like previously, this card, I never saw this card in months playing ladder or tournament because it was just too bad. But now it's actually good.
Yep, receiving a little bit of love. Let's jump over to the Soviets. It is mobile defense. Add 2 T-70 units to your support line, destroying them at the end of your next turn. I think this is pretty huge. For 4 credits, you can get 4 T-70 units that you can use the next turn as well. I think that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, this card is quite strong, and this will strengthen the aggro part of Soviet. Previously, you could have played mobile defense. Your and these tanks were only existing. To remember, these are the 2 credit tanks with 3/2 guard and 1 operation costs. But previously, they only lasted like the opponent's turn. When it's your turn again, they are just getting destroyed, and your opponent just need to deploy something, use his credits for something else, and they are gone. That didn't make any sense to me, to be honest. So I'm glad they changed that card. Now you're able to move them. To attack once, you can trade into the front line, you can trade into the back line, you can attack headquarter, meaning 6 damage to headquarter for 6.
Yep.
And this will be a nice combo with all of the combo stuff like UWA, like counter-offensive, like Engineers Regiment. This is actually a good card now from previously being very, very bad.
And you could use this to gain a lot of card advantage with things like trading possibly into a unit, then using Euro factories or Red Banner to snowball that card advantage, where you're kind of just generating a ton of cards from these mobile defenses.
Yeah, of course, but 2 or 4, 3 or 4 credit is not the best because there's a rarity and maybe you're getting a bomber to the front line. This can work, this doesn't have to work. But of course,
all right,
having the possibility of trading 2 times for 3 damage with only 2 credits set up, that is amazing.
Absolutely. Well, I think you're gonna need something amazing to deal with the KV2. He is now a proper big boy. A 6'5" heavy armor 2 that can't be pinned, can't be attacked by artillery or air units. This must feel like a welcome addition to the Soviet arsenal against, British air, and we're seeing a lot of kind of backline artillery decks around the ladder these days. What do you think of this change?
This is definitely a good change to KV2. You nearly never saw this in ranked or tournaments. But, well, now it will sustain a little longer, what is great. Trade a little better, it's not dying to tactical strikes. It's dying to Avenger. But it's, in general, a nice little buff. But the real problem weren't the 4 HP. The real problem is it's just too slow. It's a 7 credit tank. Sure, the tank is great stats, heavy armor, cannot be pinned, everything's amazing about that. But you need to spend 7 credits and the next turn, additionally, 3 to 6 credits to attack and to move, Brit Air and Artillery will kill you before you can make the tank work.
That's true. All right, we're going over to the Germans. It's the Panzer IIIe. Now it will give other friendly tanks with Blitz +2 attack. I think this is pretty crazy. I think this could really help a lot of those German decks that are relying on finding that Blitzkrieg. Now they have another card around the 3/4 cost that's going to buff their tanks up. So it's going to be interesting to see if this one's going to get played in the meta.
I don't know. Currently, German Blitz tank decks are very weak, to be honest. Well, this is a good change. It's definitely a lot of more damage with all of these tanks. Maybe making even these 1/2 flag for 2 credits, 0 operation costs, viable, because this is just +2. It's 3 damage. This is quite strong, but I don't know if German tanks will be able to get back into the meta, into the top tiers.
Yeah.
But for not for the top players and tournaments, but for the middle of the player pool, this tank could be quite dangerous and have a lot of potential.
Yep. All right, let's jump over to the British, and we're gonna go kind of pretty quickly through these because there's some meat on the bones at the very end here. National Fire Service being dropped down in cost, now costing 2 credits. I like this change. I've always thought this was a cool card, but now it might be used. I still feel like there are some tools that are missing to really make British countermeasure decks work. But we'll see.
Yeah, that's true. British control is quite weak at the moment. British countermeasure is nearly non-existing. This is a nice little buff towards this archetype, but I don't think this will change anything right now, because just of the lack of tools.
Yeah.
Like, we need something like Ralph was 1 year ago, a very powerful card and a game ender. So you can just play for that, but now there are so much other stronger options. Yeah, this change is nice, but we still need something to make this archetype viable again.
What I like about this change is it doesn't go too far, right? It doesn't like make it 1 credit and all of a sudden whenever you're playing against Britain you can never deal more than 1 damage to their HQ, right? So I think it's a good, easy, nice step into kind of exploring the space of British countermeasure decks.
Yeah, definitely.
And now we got the C4 Highlanders. They're getting a little bit of a nerf. They were slightly too big of a boy there in the backline.
Who would have thought that?
Who would have thought? But putting like just tiny little tweak down, and I think it's a good change. So
yeah, it is. C4's Highlanders were just incredible powerful, like one of the strongest British cards, maybe the strongest 4K drop at all after the pre-nerfed key 83.
Yeah.
It was just incredible powerful. But you weren't able to gain tempo by this, but it was incredibly hard to play against the C4 Highlander.
Yeah.
Sure, this is fitting the British theme, but even now with 7 HP, it's still very strong.
Yeah.
For what it does, and I think this is a good change.
All right, now go over to France. The Expeditionary Corps, they're getting their HP dropped down to 2, making it a little bit easier to deal with. They were just a little bit too powerful at that 2/3, stat line for 2 plus adding a resistance card. It was just a little bit too much, so that it would just, if you're doing France, of course you're going to take the Expeditionary Corps. So I like this change.
Yeah, I never understood why they having the great stats like 2, 3, and the ability to give you resistance. I never liked that.
Yeah.
Well, sure, the rest of France cards were kind of garbage, so nobody noticed how overpowered these corps were. But this is a welcome change, balancing these early units a little.
And now, probably the most significant change coming in this balance patch is a change to not a card that you can put in your deck. Well, not on your own volition, at least. It is the resistance card itself. So no longer are you just removing the top card of your deck. You can also choose to deal 1 damage to your HQ. So now resistance can be a little bit better managed in terms of trading either HP or trading cards to get rid of them from your hand. I think this is, obviously, this is the biggest change to come to Resistance in a long, long time. So I'm really interested to hear what you think about this one.
Yeah, this is the biggest change at all in this developer block. They rated this as a nerf. When I saw this first, I wasn't even able to say if this is a nerf or maybe I don't think it's a buff, but I don't think it's really getting nerfed. Sure, decks where you're able or trying to just get rid of all of your opponent's cards and playing phony wars to deal infinite fatigue damage, it's very hard to do this now. But even if you're not removing the top card of your deck, you're going to get 1 damage. And there's quite a lot of resistance cards possible, like Liberation is 3, 2 times, that is 6. Vive la Resistance, another 4, it's 10 resistance cards. These corps are standard 2, 14.
Arming the Resistance.
Arming the Resistance at least more 4. So this is 18 damage if you're not going to choose to mill your deck. And the current resistance deck is having quite a lot of damage with Japan. So if you're going to choose to mill your deck, you're going to lose the fatigue. If you're going to choose to self-damage your headquarter, I think Japan has just enough damage to kill you very fast, because
well, at least now you can choose Darkness.
Yeah,
you can
at least
choose
you can
which way you die.
Amazing. I love this change.
Power of choice.
The current Japan France resistance deck had a lot of damage, but most of the time just not enough to kill you. And maybe this is a change and you can add some sabotage for more damage, maybe more damage amplify.
Yeah,
to be a very, very dangerous burn deck. And if you don't know if you're going to play and get rid of my deck, or if you're going against a burn deck, you can choose the wrong decision here and die instantly.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think that's a great point, because you look at this and you're like, oh yeah, wow, big, resistance change, great. But what this is also doing is it's giving you the power to make a mistake, right? Like, sometimes it's really the correct play for you is to tank the damage. Sometimes it is to mill a card. Sometimes it might be within a turn to tank 1 damage and mill 1 card, right? Like, it's going to be... Yeah, I think that's going to be like something people need to be aware of. You're not just going to be like, okay, I'm just going to tank the damage and play all my cards and I'll be fine, right?
Or maybe you don't. The right decision is to not choose and leave the card in your hand. This resistance is now way more strategic, and I like this change. Previously, it was just very annoying and frustrating getting your hand filled and milling your deck. Now you have the ability to choose, and resistance is trying to look nicer, while it's actually getting more dangerous.
Yeah.
because it's more complex now.
I think there are some people that might fall into this trap against my my old resistance commando deck, which can surprisingly ping you down really fast. So I think I'll probably bring that one out again when this change hits. Well, that's it. That's the last change in this patch. A pretty big change, a big balance patch. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens on the ladder once this one hits. Thank you so much for joining me, Darkness. Appreciate it as always.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Ollie. It was a pleasure as always.
Awesome. And to everyone watching, we will see you on the battlefield and in the next patch preview. See you later.